According to the NFL Network's Tom Pelissero, the NFLPA is pushing to end OTAs and have a ramp-up period leading into training camp instead. Now, I want to point out that when we were covering the draft for Yahoo, Charles Robinson went in on this and was very clear from that point that the NFLPA wanted more time off. And so the first time I heard this report, Jori, all I kept thinking is this is all part of the pre-negotiation that it feels like to me from a distance is happening as we prepare for the battle to 18 games.
The battle to 18 games. That's a great name. Yeah, I think that this is definitely something that's interesting for a lot of people in the NFLPA. Their argument is if you look at other leagues, they have training camp equivalents that are a longer ramp up, a more gradual physical ramp up, but they're all at one time, which I've talked to people in the PA about this, and they say, look, like, how many guys actually remember what you install in OTAs 6 weeks later? If you get there, you're restarting from OTA 1. Like, you are restarting everything you learned with the playbook when you get back to training camp. Yeah, it's the second time you've drilled it, but the way that people remember things is via repetition and via creating these associations, and having 6 weeks off right after you learned it isn't the best way. They'll also say physically, like the impacts of what you physically do in April and May, the NFLPA believes does not carry over to September and October. There's definitely a lot of talk this week about guys wanting to have family vacations with their kids in the summer. I mean, you can say you get more time off if you don't have OTAs, but you don't get more time off when your kids are out of school. So that is definitely a tricky part. And I think for me, what this comes down to is what is the NFLPA's goal here? Because there's the idea of just like a constant steady stream of leverage. And I do believe that the NFLPA showed a little bit of a strong arm with the report cards and with this almost like public shaming of owners who weren't up to the task in certain areas of the way they treated their players. But if you're telling me that the 18th game, which is probably going to be the most leverage the NFLPA has had in a non-CBA year, if not including in a CBA year, in a very long time, I guess, including the 17th game, because the owners need this. They need this for revenue. They need this for their broadcast partners. They need this for their plans for international expansion. Like, you have leverage as players that you do not usually have. And I hope they will not only use that on off-season activities that are not the most important part of what they could be bargaining for.
I think the players love this idea. Of course, why wouldn't they? The owners are like, well, we don't make any money off OTAs, so of course we're going to give that up for an 18th game. You know, the group that's going to hate this is coaches. Like, if coaches had 120 hours of practice time in a week, they'd be like, oh my God, I need 125. Like, they just are maniacal about practice time. And even in it's OTAs, it's May or it's shorts, doesn't matter. They care so much about every single ounce of practice time they can get with these guys that they're going to push back. I don't know that that's strong enough because, again, players are good with it. NFL will be good with it. Again, they make no money off OTAs. Most fans don't even really understand OTAs. I overheard somebody talking today about OTAs, and I had to stop myself from chiming in like, no, that's really not how it is. So the only people who are going to really hate this are coaches, and you are going to hear a lot of complaining from coaches. But ultimately, I don't think they got the power to stop it. So I assume we're going to see a pretty radical change to the OTAs some point soon, and then in return we'll get the 18th game.